Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. We are going to be starting off in Pixquare, but later on I will be switching to Clip Studio Paint, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So let's go ahead and start off by making our new canvas. And I'm going to be referring to this image for our, canvas size for what we're going to be creating today. So specifically, that screenshot is from a game that I got on Steam recently called Tailside, which I've been kind of eyeing this game for a while because it's kind of like a cozy cafe simulator. So the fun thing about this game, other than the cute aesthetics, cute characters, I like the entire vibe of it because I've watched a few people play it. I've also watched it kind of be created in a way because I do follow the dev. But the thing that I wanted to focus on today is the fact that they allow you to import your own character into the game to be like the main character. So you don't have to play as the main fox default. You can import your own special little character. So for me, I thought it'd be fun to pick one of my OCs. But if you're unfamiliar with my, entire roster of characters for my OCs, you're probably thinking, wait, doesn't Rin only have human characters? And technically the answer is yes, but maybe it's like more of how I planned it, almost like a spin-off of my original characters and stuff. I wanted to have some sort of like mascot character, or in this case, this would be like the Hello Kitty or like the Sanrio or something like that in Masaki's world. So I made a character named Hansuke, which is this little green cat character who has been kind of like my mascot here and there, but then eventually kind of like became his own little thing for the purpose of what I wanted him to be, I guess. So he's kind of this little tiny green, mischievous but kind of helpful little cat character, and he was kind of like accompanied with Koji and Masaki at the time. So I think recently you guys would have saw that I've also had a little kind of navy blue and kind of a rosy reddish pink colored teddy bear. So it's the teddy bear that I draw sometimes with Kaisen. It's like a big burly humongous giant bear, but more recently I've been drawing him with Hansuke about the same size. So I made him kind of like extra tiny just to be in the same world as Hansuke. And then the last animal I was even considering on doing is the fact that someone also has an animal companion, and someone recommended the name, I think it's Cecile or Cecil. I like Cecile, for the name. So thank you for the suggestion. I think I will go with that name probably, but he's like a little seal companion for Salwen. So I thought that maybe I could do all three or test it out first, and eventually maybe I'll make all three to see if I can put them into the game. But I think the easiest choice would have been Hansuke. So Hansuke is, like color palette wise and just like his entire shape is a little bit more well fitted towards the other characters that are already in Tailside, which I think mostly has like this very warm tone feeling. It does have like a very cozy vibe, and adding something that's like blatantly very bright navy blue, I was not too sure how exactly I wanted to incorporate him into the game if I did. And then obviously for Cecile, I don't know how like an idle animation and a walking animation would work for him because he kind of lays on his belly. He doesn't have like feet per se. He has like little flippers. So Hansuke was the easier choice for me to work with. So let me talk a little bit about process, and then I'll jump back in talking about whether or not later on I will make ones for the teddy bear, which I think I called them Kumabon. And then, then we have Cecile as well. So process-wise, I did end up starting in Pixquare first. So if you guys are unfamiliar, I have done a few videos of me using Pixquare. It is a wonderful app that you can use to do pixel art on the iPad. It might be available, I think, for Apple phones as well, potentially iPhones, I think. I might put a thing on the screen if it's not possible. But occasionally when I work on pixel art on my iPad, this is my preferred program. But later on I will be switching over to Clip Studio Paint, which I'll explain a little bit later because I have two kind of main reasons on why I do so. But you could definitely do everything in Pixquare as well. It's just that I'm a little bit unfamiliar on how to do animation in general, and working on Pixquare, I just wanted to focus on making Hansuke in terms of either segmenting his parts of his body so we can prep it to make our animation, and just kind of getting the general aesthetic and feel for how I wanted him to look. So starting off with the sketch, I did lower the opacity on my brush so I can get something more pencil-like and that I'm not committing to lines like very quickly, because pixel art in general is very like bold, and because like pixels are very much just one block of color, if I start to sketch in my normal way, I do think that it becomes very not legible and it's very hard to see. So lowering the opacity at least gives me that a little bit of a similar feeling of drawing and sketching normally how I usually work. And then after that, I lower the opacity of the entire layer to be a little bit lower. We make a new layer and we can start off with our coloring and our line art. Now in the past, when I have done pixel art, I kind of go back and forth whether or not I block in shapes, fill in the shapes, and then add an outline later, or I do line art and fill in the shape to do the coloring. And I kind of do sometimes a back and forth. One is because if I'm working with like smaller details where I feel like some of the lines or I guess like shapes might get lost, I find it easier for me to block in the silhouette of the shape. So let's say if I'm working on a chibi or a character, I often find it easier for myself to block in the hair silhouette rather than doing line art, because doing line art for strands where you might have to double up on the width of things, it just looks very messy, very clunky, and very I don't know, disorganized in a way. So it's easier for me to work in that way. So in this case, when I'm working on Hansuke's body, I ended up doing kind of the same thing. I ended up kind of blocking in the shape of his body. Later on, I will be filling in for the outline. But when I was working on his face only, I thought it'd be easier for me to keep it nice and clean if I did it in the opposite way. So doing a nice clean outline all the way around and then filling the colors inside afterwards, just to make sure that things were still kept at a very simple look at this size and scale. I think I also forgot to talk about this. I am using the recommended size template that the game requires you to use if you want to make your own character. And I forgot to talk about what you need to do if you want to make your own character for the game. So one, I'm doing pixel art because we are working on a very tiny scaled canvas, but I wanted to make sure that in proportion of the actual main character that they had, which is like the fox character, I wanted to make Hansuke much shorter because he is kind of our short little boy. He's very tiny. So I wanted to make sure that he wasn't overly big, because initially when I sketched him, he was like kind of massive. So I needed to scale him down. But also that would give me some room for me to mess around with his tail, which might be swaying in the background during the idle animation, the walking animation, and the running animation. So for each of those, you are going to have to make separate folders, or I guess like animation frames, I guess, for that. So while I'm working on Hansuke right now, I'm trying to separate the parts, which later on I, for some reason, abandoned. But right now, this is how I would recommend doing it if you can. I'll leave some resources in the description as well, because I had to look up a bit of visuals for an idle animation as well as a walking and running animation, because I did not know how I wanted to do the frames for each of them, because I don't have a background in animation. I don't know what to keep an eye out for, as well as just like the general sequence. So let's talk about like what you actually have to prep if you want to import or make something for Tailside. So for Hansuke, and what they recommend for the characters if you want to import them, is the fact that you need to make 6 folders, and within those 6 folders you have to have 8 frames. So for the first 2, and we can easily split these up, first of all, from left and right. And that's basically, you're just going to work with your left side, and you can definitely flip it over and just copy it over for your right. So the first ones you're going to do is for your idle animation. And for me, for some reason, I could not comprehend how you can have 8 frames for idle animation, because I usually do the simple like up down movement. So I did have to kind of figure a slower way of doing Hansuke, kind of like bobbing up and down. So the entire footage of you watching me work in Pixquare is me working on the idle animation, and how I have it separated is just into different folders. Sometimes I lower the opacity, and sometimes I just copy over parts that I want to change and or move. But it was easier for me to do it this way since I don't have an animation background. I didn't want to mess around with having to do keyframes right away for this, even though I think it would have been easier. But it's kind of like following a very similar format in terms of trying to keep everything organized into its own folders. So instead instead of just having him one frame bob upwards and then back to the center and then back down, I think I would have only had a total of, let's see, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, about 5. So I did have to add at least 1 or 2 more frames in between, and then have his arms kind of like stretch out a little bit, and then have his tail move in the background for his idle animation. So still keeping it fairly simple, but for some reason I could not comprehend how you need 8 frames, other than I guess you would just have to slow it down and make maybe smaller adjustments. And I found it easier for me to design Hansuke and make him look how I wanted him to look while I was working in Pixquare. I don't know if it's because Pixquare is like a dedicated pixel art program. It's just easier for me to visualize. I'm tempted to even work on like the basis for my shimijis and stuff, like I did in the past where I used to do them for pixel art. Maybe start them in Pixquare and then import them to Clip Studio Paint to continue to work on them. Because my ideal, or my previous program that I used to use for pixel art was actually Tailside, because they had a binary tool and just the tools in there was just like easier for me to use. But I think for the basic tools in Clip Studio Paint, I think you only have the dot pen for pixel art. I'm not too sure. There's probably like other packs and brushes you can download from the assets and materials download store, but for me I only use the dot pen, which technically is enough to work with if you're working with pixel art, I guess. So I think at this point I'm realizing that we're going to be hitting a certain point where I have all the frames that I wanted for the idle animation, so I wanted to quickly go check. So this is Tailside, or like the back end of Tailside. I've already selected the idle left portion. I imported Hansuke, and this is what he currently looks like in the game, which is already very, very cute. But there's like a few issues. One, I think I exported him to be too big, so he actually is a little fuzzy or blurry. And then 2 is that his arms are a little funky. So I don't think I showed it correctly, but his arms look like they're sucking in and out rather than coming out from behind him to out to his sides, if that makes sense. I rather them go from like left to right for their respective arms rather than up and down, because it just looks like he's like shrugging rather than, you know, idle animation kind of cute little swinging of arms kind of thing. So I ended up going into Clip Studio Paint for this, mostly for one big reason. It's because Tailside is on my computer, and I found it easier, instead of having to always export my files from Pixquare to my computer, is that I'll just work directly on my computer, so I can directly save and then update and then quickly check. It's just a little bit easier for my workflow. And then the other thing is the fact that I sometimes think I work a little bit faster with adjustments on my computer versus on my iPad in general. So this is even for like, if I need to do effects or text or anything like that, I rather do that in Clip Studio Paint rather than doing it even on Procreate. So it's not like specific to Pixquare or anything like that. So after I finished working on the idle animation for our left, I'm gonna go ahead and do his right. So I know I said you could just flip it over, and you definitely can. In a lot of games, they would just mirror it and flip it over, regardless if they have differing details on the right or left-hand side. But for Hansuke, and because it's a very simple fix, I ended up just changing his ear color, because that's the really only major difference in Hansuke's design. He's like slightly asymmetrical because of the color of his ears. So I went ahead and changed it over from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, and then copied his entire face and then placed it on top of each of the frames for that entire folder. But as you can see, as I uploaded it, I kind of messed up the alignment, so I needed to go back, fix that up, and now he's back to normal. I think at this point I did end up resizing him, so hopefully he's not as blurry. I do recommend that you export it as a 1:1. Do not like upscale it or anything, otherwise your pixels do come out a little bit more blurry in the end. Now, working on the walking left animation. So I did have to look up a walk cycle, and I found one, I think, I have it on my phone, maybe I'll put it on the screen for you guys, that had perfectly 8 frames. So I followed pretty much 1:1 of making sure I could keep the legs kind of in the same motion, making sure that I have the same up and down movement, so that when he does walk, he kind of has like the natural bobbing movement that is not kind of like funky or weird, because that's something I don't really keep in mind whenever I did walking animations for my pixel chibis, for my shimijis, because they're only, I think, 2 free frames. I think they're very, very small, so I didn't really have to do too much for them. So one mistake that I ended up doing when I actually started to do the pixel art in Clip Studio Paint, other than using the ones that I had in Pixquare, is the fact that when I exported my frames from Pixquare, I did them as like PNGs because I thought those were going to be the final for his idle animation. And because of that, I actually didn't keep the separate parts. So later on, I will be exporting the PSD version from Pixquare to Clip Studio Paint, so I have access to just his tail and just like his body. Because at some point, because his arm has to cover over his apron and his body, and then I'm covering up some pixel, and if I need to move it backwards again, then I have to refill in everything. And I don't remember what was the formation of our pixels that I had initially underneath for his body. So it would have been easier for me to copy and paste certain parts so that I can easily erase and not get rid of what's underneath and keep all of that consistent. But I'm definitely glad that I followed a guide for the walk animation because like I said, there's like a few things I would not have considered for the walk animation. And because Hansuke is so small and his features are very simplified, like he's literally a rectangle with even more rectangles for his limbs, I guess is how like I could best describe his body shape. And because of that, I don't really have to worry about like knees per se, which did make it a little bit difficult for me to interpret how I wanted to do his walk animation. And technically he didn't have prominent shaped feet. So some, I think, areas where the foot has to like touch the ground or the bottom of the canvas, you post up a little bit of a squish, I guess. So it was hard for me to interpret because there's like a few pixels that I'm working with. I know some people who are more proficient about working with simple shapes and just like a very simple and small canvas can definitely make it work. I made it work as much as I could for his walk animation. But we're back into Tailside so that I can do a quick look of what his walk left looks like. So we're just going to select this, as well as our walk right, which just happens to be basically the flipped version. All I had to do basically is to flip each frame. I just aligned them back into the center so that, everything is aligned where his face is. And then the last thing we have to work on is our run left and run right, which for the most part, I looked up also frames for the running animation, and a lot of people really push the character's body so that they're leaning forward a lot and kind of like really sprinting. So because I didn't really want to change the body form of Hansuke too much, all I did, I think, is mostly gave him a little bit more wind in his face, move his ears a little bit, and then kind of just push his legs so that they're a little bit more dramatic compared to his walk animation. So I kept everything fairly simple so that I didn't really have to warp his body too much. I'm sure there's like a better way of doing this, but I think this actually looks really cute with just a little bit of wind in his fur. I should have probably stated this at the beginning. This is not like a tutorial on how to do an idle animation, a walking animation, or running animation. It's just me showing the process because I really wanted to put him in the game. And I think in the future I might add Kumabon and Cecile into the game. But I think that's it for today. I think I will leave you guys with a little bit of game footage and I'll see you guys then. We're just gonna test out the recording because I don't know how well this is gonna go. Hi! I thought it'd be easier for me to show you guys what this actually looks like with the game. So, and in kind of like real time as if like I'm gaming. I don't think I'll ever really do like a gaming stream, so this is the closest you're gonna get. We have our left idle, we have our right idle, we have our walk left, we have our walk right, we have obviously run left, we have run right. I forgot to change the color of his ears to match this one. Oh wait, they're both wrong. I thought I re-uploaded these. I might have to change it a little bit later then. So for the walk right and the run right, I want to switch the ear color to be on either side to be correct. Because for him, the color of the ear, I guess, matters which side it's actually on. I did do it for the idle. I forgot to do it for the walk and the run. But let's go ahead and confirm. Let's reset these so I can make sure. Right. Run. No, walk left. Walk right. Run left. Run right. And confirm. It says character changed, so hopefully we can see Hansuke in action in this game. So I'm gonna hit start. Empty slot. My first cafe. I guess I'll just call it Hansuke? I haven't played this game. I've only watched people play it, so I'm actually excited because I love cozy games. Yeah, but check out Tailside if you guys are interested. As well as check out Pixquare if you're interested in some sort of pixel art app for the iPad. As well as I believe it's on iPhone as well. Shift to run, we have scroll to zoom, WAS to walk. I don't play a lot of computer games, so you guys are gonna have to excuse me. Oh, I'm glad they put a filter on him. I'm glad. I was scared he was gonna be standing out too much, but it looks like he fits into the environment a little bit better because they have like a little bit of like a sepia brownish filter on him, which is nice. You guys can read, it's okay. Oh, it's so cute! Look at him! He's so cute. I will have to change the ears because it bothers me a little bit. Look how cute he is. Oh, my little guy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change the green on his ears because in the idle it's like perfect. As soon as he starts to run the other way or walk the other way, it switches. He looks so cute. I'm kind of glad that I did Hansuke. I was debating if I was gonna do like a chibi character or if I was gonna stick with one of my little animal characters, I guess. What is Toffee though? What animal is Toffee? Managed to get a simple coffee making set in here. Espresso. I didn't realize, so for my VTuber tracking, my phone's in front of my computer screen. I keep forgetting that continue is spacebar because I can't see it on my screen right now. Select the small cup. Beans to the grinder. But this is such a cute game. Got an old coffee journal on the right for making different types of coffee that you can use. Much better. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Toffee and I'll be helping you settle down here since others are a bit busy with their own work. But don't worry, you'll meet them soon enough. Can anyone tell me what Toffee is? It looks like a mix of a bunch of different animals. But not enough coffee today. I've snuck in something new. It's a simple milk heater that you can use to make a macchiato. After all, we don't want to get bored of making the same drink every time, right? I think it looks cute. I know he doesn't like look like the style of the characters in this game, but I'm glad that they put some sort of like warmer filter on him. He looks so cute! And I gave him like Masaki's little apron because I thought it would fit the cafe. So I have a really strange setup right now, but I wanted to show you guys with maybe like a proper layout. Like I said, I don't think I'll do gaming stuff in the future. But I think it's still kind of fun to show you guys like the full thing in its entirety. Expand with time and experience, so keep an eye out for new additions. Have you thought about your decor style preference already? Cute and cozy. Got it, I'll let our carpenter know. He often has new furniture and decor. Oh, I think my friend should be free now. The latte art's a little bit difficult. This footage that I'm going to be making one of probably Kumabon, which is the bear for Kaisen. And we'll see if we can make one for Cecil, because I think it could be cute. Yes, give me greenery. I need plants. Where do we want to add them though? Oh, these are cute. They're just nice and small. Level up. New shop items unlocked. See, this is like Hansuke Masaki kind of aesthetic. No. Wait, let me decorate Toffee. See, is that even aligned? I can't tell. If that's even aligned or not. So that's all of our stuff. See, look at these guys. Oh. Oh, cute. Oh. They're just little guys. I feel like I could play this forever. It's such a cute game. And the fact that there's no time limit. That's where I'm gonna end with this. I don't really see myself showing you guys too much of this, so I can just play and relax. Is there a menu button so I can pause this? Okay. Yeah, but hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me play a little bit and showing you guys how Hansuke looks like in the game. And I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!